We've all been here. You're tired, you're not feeling it, and you're just waiting for that spark of motivation to show up and kick in. Most people think they have a laziness problem, but in reality, it's more of a dependency on motivation. Waiting for motivation is kind of like waiting for a sunny day to go for a run. Especially here in Vancouver, you'd be waiting forever, man. Remember, motivation is a feeling and discipline is a system. Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you could join me again this week. Today's topic, as I mentioned in the intro, is really about the difference between motivation and discipline. And this is a really interesting topic because there are lots of people, including myself, that work on helping people get motivated to achieve their dreams and their goals. But along in that teaching, discipline always comes up. And it is actually, as we will talk about as we move along, the foundation, kind of the base of really what separates a lot of regular athletes or people that are in the work field that are kind of here and the upper elite people. It's the discipline really that is their rock. And hopefully in today's video, I can help share some light on that and tips on maintaining that kind of discipline you need to have that pro level achievability. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is this motivation myth, kind of really what this is. And if you can really think about it honestly, it is really just a chemical spike in the brain, if you want to dig deep, and it provides high energy. But along with that high energy, sometimes it spikes and it dips. And depending on how you are that day, what type of person you are, what type of personality you have, it can really go up and down, right? So that's the first thing we got to recognize of really what motivation is and how it comes along. And I want to be very clear. I work on this all the time and help clients out with developing a more consistent feeling of that motivation to stay motivated and to keep going, and that good feeling. I'm not trying to diss motivation and saying it's not valuable, but I also want to try to develop your base, kind of the rock like I explained, and that's the discipline. And I can help you with that because, I did play for 15 years pro, and I also went through all of the ups and downs and struggles of junior hockey and 6 years of that. But one thing I did learn early on, and not on purpose, but was a discipline that I would sacrifice certain things to make sure I got the job done. Now we'll touch on that as we go along, but I think knowing kind of really the difference between motivation and discipline is very important before we can even get going moving forward. Now we can kind of dig into the discipline side of things. How do we go about creating this discipline that we're just going to do no matter what? Through the good times, the bad times, it doesn't matter. You don't veer. There are multiple ways. One way that I think is very helpful, not for everybody, but it's almost a mental or verbal, a contract to yourself that you commit to that contract. Now, you might want to make that contract in your head when you're at a high state of energy. So you're feeling really good, you're motivated, and you want to get going, and you kind of say, okay, I'm going to do this. Every day at 7 a.m., I'm doing this every day, whatever it is. I'm just going to give an example of the type of contract that you would give to yourself. And then from that, when you're at a low energy level, not motivated, feeling down or whatever, and you get up at 6:30 for that 7 a.m. whatever training, you have a contract with yourself that you will just do it regardless of how well you do, regardless of whether you're going to cry at the gym, you're just going to get through it. And when you have those little successes along the way, you will start to see momentum build and then motivation build. It is kind of like a snowball effect. It takes some time. I don't know if any one of you have ever experienced where you go to the gym, an early morning workout, and you literally start on the bike, and that first minute you're like, no, I have like no energy to do this. And you really do believe you're getting off and you're quitting. And then you just something in your brain, and I'm speaking from personal experience, that you just gut out that little bit longer and you keep going and you whine and bitch in your head, but you keep doing it. And next thing you know, you're approaching the halfway mark and you're like, okay, I can do. Once I get over that hump, man, and sure enough, you make it that halfway mark and you're good. You're going to finish it. And then after you're done, you're like, man, I'm so glad that I did that and I didn't wuss out. I didn't give up. I didn't quit because I wasn't feeling good. That's sticking to your contract, man. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Another nice little tip I can give you is something I talked about in the last video, I think, and that was the identity shift, replacing the I instead of talking about yourself like, I'm not motivated, man, to the body's a little weak today and make light of it and you acknowledge it, but you're not attaching yourself to that. It's small, but it can be very helpful in getting to that next step of hopping on that bike, and then that next step of pushing through and sticking to your contract. It can be a helpful tool. It's not for everybody, but I tell you what, and I said it in the last video before about words. Words are so powerful, man. Do not ever underestimate the power of words. That whole idea of when you stick to something and just get over that little bit of a hump and it creates that spark of motivation again. It's kind of like a loop, man, in that contract when you're not feeling it, and especially if I use that early morning example, because I did it a lot. And I was a terrible morning person, but when you start and you get over the hump and then you're feeling good about what you did, it creates that motivation to push through until you get that low lag again, and then you do it again and you do it again. And that loop is pretty much in a nutshell what being a pro is about, man. Because I'll tell you what, plenty of days where I was not feeling it. And I've explained many, many times about all of the different mistakes that I made, and I use them in my teaching all the time. One thing that I did well and helped maintain my career with all of the other crap I didn't do well was, off season. You could really take the season off and just do nothing. And as my wife will attest to, I was very committed to doing my stuff, and sometimes it would be a long day, and I wouldn't be at the house, and I would get up early, drive all the way from where we were in White Rock to North Van, which is over an hour, to the pro skate. I would skate at 10 a.m. And then after that, I would put my running shoes on, go straight to the Grouse Grind, which is up a ski mountain climb. I would do that, come back down, and hit some kind of stop to get some food in. And on the way home, would stop at the gym, work out, and then get home. So it was long. And it created a little bit of friction in the family because I was very dedicated to that. And I had 4 kids, so it's a busy household. But I will say this, I did commit to that. And I do believe it made a big difference in how long my career was. And I really try to take that into everything that I do, pretty much. When I commit to something, I'll stick it out and I'll do the things even though that I don't like certain things, i.e., doing these videos. I hate, and I'll be honest, the editing stuff and all of that stuff that goes after I get to speak. I love talking about these kinds of topics and helping people. It's just all the other stuff is very not in my wheelhouse. So leading into these videos and getting ready to do one and stay consistent, which I am this past month or so, I've decided I'm going to try to be consistent. And I've kind of given myself a verbal contract in my head that I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to get these out to people and hopefully build the channel so more people can see it, because my channel is very small, right? But you have to stay disciplined to do that. So it's really kind of neat. I'm trying to practice what I'm preaching right now to you and use some of my discipline experience from when I played and take this into this kind of part of my life. I'd love to hear from you if you have any other types of ways to stay disciplined that might help some other people in the comments. There's not one way to do this, but I will say, if you acknowledge that the motivation isn't what is going to keep you going all the time, and that you can really propel yourself further and longer and maintain if you have discipline in your life as your rock, as your base. It's really, really important. Speaking from someone that was a pro athlete and did it for a lot of years, I'm not trying to say that motivation can't be created, though. I can't emphasize that enough, because motivation is a great thing and it's a good feeling too. And you can build on that. Don't get me wrong. It's just that if your base is the discipline, I know that you'll go further and you won't waver as much, because you can really fall off if you rely only on being motivated. Well, that's all I got for you for today. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button, and if you liked it, please hit that button as well. And if you feel this is helpful and might be helpful to someone else, please share it. Other than that, man, have a great day. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.